Yeah.
So everybody ready?
Yep.
We'll call the Nashville Utility Service Board meeting to order Friday, August 1st, right at 10 a.m. I will start with roll call.
Jim Kramer.
Tom Roberts.
Alan Brown.
David Chalko.
Alicia is not here today. Approval of the minutes. Did anybody take a look at the minutes from our last meeting?
I haven't.
Any comments, changes, or motions to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
All in favor?
I.
July adjustment requests. What do we have, folks?
Okay, in July, we had a customer come in here. He was granted a water and sewer adjustment. And he said it was like on a residential piece, but to kind of find out, it was actually commercial property. And so he should not have been given the water credit.
So he doesn't live there, that was.
No, it's, I believe, a Airbnb. Let's see. Our records show this was an email that Sandy had sent out that it is designated as commercial. And it can only hold one designation. So according to our ordinance, they would not be allowed for the water adjustment. So we would have to deny the reserves. Yes.
So do we need a motion for that, or so then the motion is we're going to change that, but he still gets the sewer thing.
Correct.
Okay,
Second that motion.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any other adjustments we can look at?
No, that was the only one for this.
SMARTAQUA report and subscription proposal. We watched a video about it this morning. I don't know if there's anything to really discuss at this point. Basically, we're going to wait. They're going to provide us with a map that shows where their AI engine is predicting leaks. Robin's going to take that and see if those correspond to real world leaks, and then we'll circle back around and make a decision. Yes. So that's a fair summary.
Yes.
Okay. Consider options for funding downtown fire protection system upgrade. I think this is Jared's conversation.
All right, so,
Did you find us $12 million?
I mean, I can find you the money.
Pile somewhere.
Oh, I don't know. Stacked nicely.
Stack nice.
Yeah.
Pile stacks.
I like all these actually. And I say,
There's a tree that grows.
yeah, like the kids have cut it down. So what we did, we just basically took it, did a rate study, formalized a rate study, talked with, Nathan, Dan. I've got the report. I gave each one of you the report. I can go through, so it starts with the historical data that we pretty much cover every month. I think everybody has a pretty good handle on our current outstanding debt, our cash balance, all that stuff. So I can jump into the kind of the pro forma or the rate impact. So if you want to start on page 12, 13. We'll go to 13. Would be sources and uses. And I believe, Nathan, is this option 3? I think 3 and 4 of like your guys' options.
Yeah.
They're very similar in price, so we chose option 3 for now, just for model purposes.
Yeah.
And we had talked, working with Nathan. One thing we wanted to do was identify out of this project what is kind of exclusively related to fire protection.
Okay.
And so, all of the other components here are, like help the system overall. They have an impact on the entire system.
Right,
And
the problem they solve is pressure and water loss.
Right.
which is,
Which is 2 out of the 3 target issues that this project is to solve.
the storage tank really, so if you said we don't really care about the fire protection issue, right? You guys could theoretically cut the storage tank out
You're right.
of the project. So, we took that and we really isolated and said, look, the storage tank is the component of the project that is benefiting the fire protection, the customers that are, benefiting from this fire. So that's about 31% of the total construction estimate. We've got all this information on here, and these are all preliminary estimates from the engineers. They will be refined, I think, further on, but generally, we're looking at that $12.4 million total project. So with that 31%, we go on to page 14. So we've talked about it. How do we recover the funds, the revenues, or how do we generate revenues to pay for this project? So we put together 3 different options, and option 1 is defined as hybrid. And so what we did here was establish a fire protection charge, which would be applied to those entities or customers that are really benefiting from the fire protection. So it's
Defined geographic area.
yeah, and it's kind of the downtown, and there's a map. And so they would get a special fire protection charge, and then the additional revenue would be generated from the entire system, the customers on the rest of the system, because of the nature of the project benefiting the entire system with pressure and water loss. So option 1 was a hybrid. Option 2 is just an across the board. So we will, and I'll go into the detail on them, but basically, like, we wouldn't really create that fire protection charge. We just do how we've done historically and say, okay, everybody's going to share in the cost of this project. And then option 3 is the other way, in which we pretty much recover all of the cost of the debt service on the proposed bonds through a fire protection charge. Okay.
The full.
Does that make sense?
The full 12 million. There's a little bit that's like an across the board, and I'll talk about that. And that's related to like other costs that would be allocated. Actually, we can tweak that a little bit. It's coverage, but I think the purpose of today, my understanding was like generally like what do these numbers look like, right? Like, and so if we go option 1, we start at the top. We have operating disbursements, so that's O&M. $1,489,000. Currently have outstanding bonds of $97,000 a year. The proposed water bonds, that contemplates a $12.4 million bond over 25 years, and we use a 5%. It's like a market rate. So we could do those. We say found the money. We talked about like SRF and OPRA and USDA and all these kind of funding mechanisms, but there's always like the open market, which is the traditional funding where you fund projects for. And so we could, that's 100% an option. While SRF may come if we can qualify with subsidized rates, I don't know that it's an option for this project. I don't know if it'll score well enough to score. So we've kind of taken that approach. Like, look, if you guys move forward with this project, we can do it through an underwriter, with an open market. Go out and you find bond purchasers, and 5% is on right now. I think it would be a little bit less than that. Probably looking 4.5, 4.75.
This is kind of a worst case.
Yeah, I use worst case, but I have no control in the economy. But yeah, as we sit here today, so it contemplates basically a 25-year bond, 5%. So that is $879,810 annual debt service. You then are required to maintain bond coverage / depreciation working capital. We've got 130 coverage in there, so that's $293,319. So basically, we need to generate $2,760,000 of revenue every year to fund this. We go down below. We have our test year was 24. Test year sales $1,552,000. We do collect some money from the Brown County State Park. some of the stuff on fees, interest income, other, service charge miscellaneous. And then you'll see this other operating receipts, well, excuse me, underneath that proposed fire protection charges. So what we did, and this is where Nathan and I touched on a little bit this morning, we asked Nathan to give us an EDU count or a meter size count. So we define the area, we call it the fire protection area. We identified 242 counts for customers.
Sure.
We pulled the data, we provided the data to us that showed those customers. And some of those customers have multiple meters. At least the
I know,
data,
it's-
I don't know how to go about this. So basically we went through and we calculated what we think is 922 EDUs, which is equivalent dwelling units. So what that means, and the engineers can correct me, but in my layman's terms, is a 5/8 inch meter is one EDU or residence. A 1-inch meter provides, what's the ratio on? Like is it 4 times or?
Theoretically, it's more. The 1-inch meter could provide service to more EDUs.
So it would be considered like 4 EDUs. So the data, so we came up based on the data we had, and I'm hedging here because we're gonna scrub a little bit because we found something late yesterday that may change the numbers a little bit, but the idea is that we in this calculated 922 EDUs. So a resident in that fire protection area would pay the 1 EDU price. In this option 1, right now it's $24.81 a month. If it's, for example, say a 1-inch meter and that's the equivalent to 4 EDUs, they'd pay basically $100 or 4 times that $24.81. So the larger meters are paying more. Now,
The thought process behind that is an apartment complex that has 6-inch water meter for 150 apartment units would fit greater. Should contribute more to this fire protection cost than a single family house.
Is that how, I mean, are there, I assume there are similar models to how this has been done in other communities.
This is how it's been done.
so the ordinance would basically, if we put it in ordinance, it'd be like a 5/8 inch meter pays $24.81. A 1-inch meter pays $96 or $100, for whatever, and we would lay it out that way. So then they in the billing, they can code that accordingly. So we can get into maybe the changes in EDU and stuff, but like what we've done here is we said the fire protection charge is $274,501. So that is us recovering, that would be the revenues from taking 31% of the project, that's that 274,000. We would recover that through the fire protection charge.
We were just allocating that.
So 274 divided by 922 equals $224.81.
Yeah, talking as far as customers, is that just in town or is that to the city limits?
Just in the geographical region of this fire protection area.
So you all sat down with a map and said, these hydrants are here and
These customers would benefit from the additional fire protection. It's basically downtown, the Salt Creek Plaza area. Roughly. Everything here is draft. Just so and so, there, yeah.
so we would generate $274,000 from fire protection charges, generating $1,970,000, which then leaves us with a shortfall of $790,000, which would be, in this case, recovered through like more of an across the border, across the entire customer base, so 50%. And so down below, you can see like the residential rate currently for 4,000 gallons is $69.18. 50% increase is $104.41. And then fire protection, monthly fire protection per EDU is $24.80.
What would the water bill, you've got the residential water bill, but what about for one of the commercials, just your apartment complex or hotel or something? Are they gonna
they would get a 50% increase on their water bill on their usage.
Plus the 20.
Plus 2481 times their EDU count, so it's very circumstantial or specific to the customer and their connection type.
So this number 8, is that the amount of residential customers, or what's 8 represent?
8.
Rate increase required, retail customers, only 8.
Oh, only 8, 8 is the footnote at the bottom and exclude, so we're not proposing an increase to Brown County State Park.
Oh. Of course.
Yeah, but.
Yeah.
Option 2 is, it's taking the same thing, but we're not recovering anything through any fire protection charge. We're not establishing anything like that. So you're looking at a 68% across the board, which is 116.64. And then option 3, we said, look, if we're recovering all of the debt service, which basically the two numbers match, the top and the bottom there, 879, 810, you would have a $79.52 per EDU charge per month, and you would need an 11% increase on retail customers only. The reason that 11% is as a product of the coverage of the new bonds, and that's one thing, like, it's subjective. Right now, we didn't include the coverage in the fire protection charge. We just did the debt service. I could justify either one. So if that makes sense. So if I applied the coverage to the fire protection charge, the across the board increase on option 3 would be 0 instead of 11%. I know, Joe, I see the wheels turning. It's,
So wait,
I got it.
option 3,
yeah,
everybody in the system would be assessed fire protection charge.
No.
Yeah,
still on that 922.
just the 900.
And everybody in the system would get an 11% like
Okay,
volume charge increase. We'll call it.
In the quote unquote, in the town that's getting the benefit, how many actual customers were there? 400?
242, I think, was the.
yeah,
I missed that, okay. But they generate 922 EDUs.
Correct.
So this is
Because of the hotels and.
Yeah, because there's,
the nursing home.
is this a good time to talk about lead users? Like, are you fine with the 922 or do we need to amend?
No, I think that we need to amend that and revisit it.
It's gonna change the numbers. I mean, the less EDUs, right? We still have to recover the same amount of money. We're gonna have more EDUs? Well, look at you with all your good news. I mean, no, but like, in all seriousness, yeah, we're recovering the same amount of money over more EDUs. That should lower the EDU cost.
The EDU number that we're working with at the moment is what I would call a snapshot. It's like a 3-month. We need to get some numbers as a starting point. The true way to shore up the EDU number is to take a 3-year average, do a bunch of engineering stuff to it. Okay. Figure out flow, so it's more defensible.
So you can give me an EDU count,
Or we can give you a revised EDU.
okay?
But from a disbursement of expenses in these 3 scenarios, they're still very much illustrative. What we're looking
I mean, to me, well, I'm not you guys, but like from our previous conversations, like the $25-ish EDU seems much more palatable.
Yeah.
as a fire protection.
And equitable too.
So, I mean, if we look at, I guess my thought would think about this, but I mean, I like option 1. And that seems to make sense. I'd certainly like to see those 2 numbers come down a little bit, but that's based on option 3 versus option 4 versus term versus rate. I mean, there's some stuff that is a lot. But this is kind of, again, the worst case scenario. So, you know, I mean, option 2 and option 3 don't really make much sense to me as far as, kind of to Jim's point from the last one, trying to make this an equitable distribution of the cost. So,
Well, me, option 2 is one extreme and option 3 is another extreme.
yeah,
And in theory, the hybrids have some, it's just, and they're just drafts.
so in,
The two things I need more help with is I understand what I'm looking at here in a general way. And I understand the EDUs, et cetera, et cetera. But I need, and I don't mean right this minute, I mean, going something I can study later. I need to know more about the assumptions of out of our 800 customers that are on sewer and 1,400 in the water system. The 242, I want to get my head around that, because at least when I was counting who's in town, in my head, I included Parkview, even though they might not get direct benefit from Firewater.
Right.
I kind of had them, and I basically from Parkview, the baseball field, crossing the road and coming back on Old 46 all the way to town. And I had a larger zone, and I thought I was like almost 500 versus 242. I'm not suggesting we change anything. Just if I'm going to make, when questions are asked or whatever, I kind of want to get a handle on what the assumptions were
Well, that's,
on the 242 to get a benefit, because I think, and the other thing I need to do in my own head is know the customers that pay the largest dollars of our $1.5 million in revenue or more. The impact to them is going to be the greatest, and their voices are going to be the loudest. Sure. There are more residential customers, so there's more voices, but the volume on the customers, the impact to their businesses and stuff are going to be. And so the other half of understanding what people are in the group, the 240 versus 500, I also kind of need to know, this is showing me what the residential rate is, which affects most of the customers of the 1,400. But I kind of need to know on our top 50 what it really means to them. I don't know that I need to have it for every one of those 50, but I need to have a better handle in my own head what impact it is to them.
How about this?
Those are the, and I don't.
No, I'm not gonna do it right now. What I'm gonna tell you
I'm
is,
just saying, I'm trying to figure out,
yeah,
I need some time to process those thoughts in my head.
I'll do a top 50. In my experience, it's like, it's like your top 10, top 20, maybe, depending, and then you really drop off, like, so, and I'll look at the data and kind of find that. I understand what you're saying. Maybe I'll find the top 10, top 20, and I'll put in there, and we'll do a schedule that just shows like current, and then, right, and that's what you're asking, right? Right, like if their bill right
Yeah,
now is,
maybe not black and white perfect as much as I need to understand it in my own head. Who the customer
makes sense. Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
and what impact is it, because there's going to be questions that this is kind of, I understand this. This is basically telling me that either extreme, meaning the 1,400 customers cover all of it, or the people in town, the 240 cover all of it. Both of those extremes are probably, we want to be in the middle somewhere, and the hybrid is the right direction or a compromise, but I'm trying to understand anyway.
my other question is, Joe, did you, I think we talked about this before, were you able to take into account, it's probably not gonna be a big number, but we're gonna lose less water, so we'll have less water loss. Should we take that into account at all, or is it?
I can't account for it, but I can't use it to sell bonds. I can't use it from like,
Okay.
well, you know, like I can do it for your own sake, but like,
we can't use it to adjust.
they're gonna make me use test year and then they're gonna say any adjustments to that, like fall within this.
A perfect example was going through the sewer project, they didn't allow us to account for the lower influent infiltration from the state park.
Right.
And then come to find out the state park delayed their project for years and years and years, and it's not gonna be experienced anyway. So that's why they don't, yeah.
So now that we have this, now that Jim's got some more questions that they're gonna work on, what do we need to do to push this forward? Or to push this proposal to town council, this is what we think you should do. I'm not saying we haven't decided that that's what we want to do, but if option one is what we like, option four that we budgeted is what we like, we know this is gonna be worst case-ish.
What I would say is, I think from my perspective, if you guys understand that this is the path that we're heading potentially, like with the rates, and you're comfortable, like that's been my experience, like, so you understand, because what they're likely gonna say is like, we need to start the design, like, so I think the idea is you understand the rate impact now of this project at that scope. It's gonna, we can tweak it, refine it, but I gave you both ends on purpose, right? So you can see what hopefully is the maximum in the other middle. You guys are fine with that, then that would be moving forward with the project planning side of things. So that's all, I wanted to say that part, it just.
Right, where we shore up the EDU number, we're comfortable with that, we draft a fire protection map. And make this a more defined option for the council's consideration.
Are we spending money on that, or is it just? So I guess what do we do next to keep this pushing forward? Does that require us to agree to spend money to do what you just said, or is that covered in one of these 1, 2, 3 attachments that I'm looking at?
It's covered in one of the 1, 2, 3 attachments.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so I guess my ask then is, I know Jim's got a couple of questions in it, but I don't think the answer to those questions is going to change the direction for this option one, for the option 3, 4. While Jared's getting that information for us to consider, can you start moving forward? What you just said about defining this, and we can do that. I would like to see us make some forward movement on this now that we've got this, because at some point we're gonna have to throw it up to council and say, we want to spend $12 million, this is where we're gonna pay for it. We need you to give us a thumbs up or thumbs down so we can keep. So if we're not spending any money yet, then my ask for the board is, let's approve him to keep going with it. Let's get Jared to get us the information that you just asked for. That we purposely team this up so that we would pick option one. So
We are going to have another regular quote-unquote USB 80 release, right? Okay. So in my mind, I got 2 weeks to think about all this stuff.
Mhm.
And I would say that that's the meeting that we kind of make some kind of an informed decision.
I was hoping that Nathan would have us all the maps and some improved stuff to look at by that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Because we're not really making any decisions. He's just gonna keep filing it over.
And the other thing I would say is, I don't have any problem today of saying, we as a USB have looked at the 25 rate prepared by August 1, and town council, here it is. Here's the information, and we've reviewed it, and we don't think we don't like option 3, meaning it's not. Our recommendation would be that we only focus all the expense on the 242 local customers. I don't think it's that we don't, option 2, we kind of kick that out because we don't necessarily think, we do think that the people that get the benefit from the system, the proposed system, should pay a little incrementally more. And so we're focused on a hybrid. Without saying this is the final hybrid that will never change again in a general way, I don't have any problem saying, here's this stuff. And we've reviewed it and we think the hybrid solution is where we're headed. And then I don't know exactly what the town council will do with it. But I think we have, out of the four of us here, unless someone speaks up, we have a concurrence that that's the direction we think we're looking at. And I also think that we don't think, to say it again, if we have to borrow money for 25 years, we're not borrowing money for 5 years. It's a 25-year bond. And if the interest rates are the way they are, but if we're borrowing the money for 25 years, then, and we know that we kind of need $12 million globally to do all the things we want to do, then saying, well, is there a plan for 5 million today? Do we have to spend 12 million? No, we can spend less, but you're borrowing the money for 25 years. And so in 5 years, you're going to need to spend more, and you're not going to have the first 5 paid for because it's out 25. And so assuming that you can prorate this over 10 years won't work because we don't have that much money in the bank. We don't throw off enough money every year to where we could say, okay, we'll spend 2 million this year, 2 million next year. That would still require a rate increase. And so that's the other point that I think you can make to the town council. We don't think spending part of the money makes any sense. It makes sense to try to fix it all.
So I guess so the next town council meeting's at the end of the month. So our next meeting is before the next town council meeting. So what I would like to see us do is get all this together, get this information so that we can hand Dave a pack that says, this is what we want to do. At least give us a thumbs up.
Here's where we're at today.
And keep marching towards this. So I don't want to waste a bunch of money or a bunch of people's time that they're like, oh, we're not going to do it, just fix the leaks. So
Right.
that was my semi-Dave impression. We can do it a little better than that if I can. If we can pull all that together and then make that recommendation after this meeting in 2 weeks, I think that'd be awesome. Is that good?
Yes.
Okay.
The only, just so I understand on the numbers you give us on.
Yeah.
Okay. Big picture, what we're saying is that where today, annually, we collect roughly 1.7 million gross.
Yep.
Okay. And we spend that and have $100,000 left over exacts. That we need to go from 1.6 to 2.7, 2.8. And so basically the $12 million we need to borrow, the annual payment for that is roughly $1 million.
Yeah. The payment and the coverage, but yes. Yeah. Yeah, and that's option 2, to find that number, the easiest is right there, that option 2, 1,064,554.
And said in a different way, 25 years times 1 million is 25 million to get half of that today. So we need to give Jerome Powell a call, tell him to lower interest rates. And at that rate, borrowing it for a longer period of time doesn't really help. That means your interest rates go up. So the other message to the town council would be focus on that, because we're only getting 50 cents on the dollar for the work that we need to do. Is there any way? I don't know what it is, but we need to get a sweetheart deal on the rate. The other part is, when it comes to the state park, they are the largest water customer. They don't do sewer.
I don't think they are.
You're right. You're
From a volume perspective.
right. No, you're right. But to exclude the state park in the equation, if we're talking about fair, does not seem fair to me.
No.
Is there a mechanism for us to increase the rates.
We have a phone call on human beings that we can talk
Yeah,
to.
I think you have nothing to lose by being, reaching out saying, hey, this is what we got coming up, We can have Chris Friday go through the contract, see what mechanisms available.
Technically, we operate at a loss.
I think you should, 100%,
Because
we should try and find some way to do that, but for now, we didn't.
And that's good.
That's okay, it's okay.
Well, and I think that's something we can see if there's a mechanism for us to request for, however we do that, we raise that, should, so. Any questions on this? We've got a clear move forward plan between now and the next meeting.
You guys know what, you wanna make some tweaks to that.
I'm gonna revise this report with all your stuff. Nathan, you can give me the EDU count for before 2 weeks. So it'll be ready for that meeting.
Do you have time to do it?
Yeah.
That, I'm assuming everybody can just drop.
No,
it.
it's fine. I mean, we're right here, that's like, yeah, to your point. I mean, same for us, like, keep it.
David, do you have any thoughts? Would you like a map of who the people are that were counting in the equation? Do you?
They will get us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get you. Yes, it will.
And they'll go to SRF and beg again.
Right, we will.
Forward.
We definitely will. Hey, oh, you guys. Yeah.
Did you have any questions on any of this?
So many.
Well, if you got some, I'm looking.
I mean, it's probably a really, really dumb question, but what are you doing? Like, are you replacing lines?
Yeah.
That's what.
So we can let,
I'll take a stab at it.
all right,
Once upon a time, Nashville just wanted water. 70 years ago, Nashville just wanted some water. And so they went to Lake Monroe-ish, i.e. Belmont specifically, and ran a line all the way to town. 70 years ago. So and all the water lines in town are 70 years old, circa 1950, 1960. Old, way past their lifetime. Second thing that happened later was somebody said, well, we'd like to run it up to Beanblossom. And so we extended our water line from Nashville to Beanblossom. So when you think about it, there's like a lot of line, and then you have a little Nashville in the middle. And we have, to put that into numbers, there are approximately 1,400 water customers and 700 or 800 sewer customers. Why the difference? Because you got all the people from town to Belmont, the Oakwood Lake area, Lower Schooner, and you have all the people from north of Orchard Hill, clear to Beanblossom. And the rates that we've been paying over all these years have been largely just to cover costs without any money going into a bucket that you would fill this bucket up over a period of 10 or 20 years and then have a bucket of money that you can spend on improvements. So the system in town is 70 years old, 50 to 70 years old. And right now, the water system is safe. I'm sorry, the water system budget is safe, and we have like 5% extra money. We're healthy. We're not losing money. We're not going broke, but we aren't putting money away for improvements that we're going to need. The plan, and today, from Orchard Hill North, that's extended system is on its own pressure zone. And everything south of that, all the way to Yellowwood Lake area, Belmont, Mike's Grocery, that whole system is on its own pressure zone. And the pressure comes from the two tanks at the top of Kelly Hill, across from the park entrance. Those tanks are elevated 300 feet above town. And to get the water over the hills to get to town. And so those tanks, 300 feet equates to 150. Easiest way is divide by 2, ballpark. So the pressure in town is regulated basically by the tanks that are on top of the hill.
150 PSI, well, you didn't finish the thought.
Yeah.
PSI.
And so need to do two things. One is the system that we have in town is aged 70 years. And we have a pressure. We'd like to address the high pressure, to have a pressure just for town that was normal, 75 to 100 PSI. And when the water was first brought to town, like 70 years ago, it was, we just like to have some water. Who cares about a fire? When Miller's Drug Store caught on fire, the volunteer fire department's down there with trucks and you're doing the best you can. But if something burned down, there weren't really any, historically, there weren't really, other than the Orchard Hill Motel and the state park, there weren't a whole lot of hotels. But you didn't have apartments, didn't have the nursing home, really. And so over the 70 years, the town has grown. And so now, if you had a fire at the nursing home, we don't have the water volume needed. If the fire lasted 12 hours, we got 12 hours worth of a little water. But if we need all the water at once, we don't have the volume. So one of the issues we like to address, besides the 70-year-old piping and to address the pressure, is we like to have fire flow. And if you ask the state and the world what a little town like us should have for the uses that we have in the town, our consultants tell us, ooh, you really ought to have some fire flow. So the other thing that we would do with this $12 million is we'd add fire hydrants, increase the size of the pipe, partly because a long time ago, there wasn't anybody here. 70 years ago, the population wasn't that great, so you can get by with small pipes. We'd like to increase the size of the pipes. And so the solution to that is to put a tank in town with enough volume to fight 2 hours for the fire. And in simple terms, to have a big pipe going out to Salt Creek where all the apartments and stuff are at, so you can get the water from the tank to there in high volume and have high volume in town. And at the same time, you can address the pressure because the tank in town wouldn't be as high as Kelly Hill. And so you would replace the aging pipe to cut down on our leaks, because we sell approximately half of the water. We buy twice as much water as what we need. In a perfect world, you'd buy a quarter more. Nobody has a system that doesn't leak, but ours is high. Get rid of the leaks, increase the size of the piping, provide a separate pressure zone, have fire. Those are the things that this $12 million do.
So if there was a fire that broke out right now in the state park, you
That's the
guys should
state.
be responsible for going to put it out.
No,
So where does the state park come into it then?
the state park buys water from us and sends sewage to us.
Oh, okay.
The line runs from kind of Cloud Crest and wiggles its way over to Parkview and past the baseball field and kind of crosses in, and that's where they get their water from. They could buy their water from Bryan County Water Utility, but they buy it from us because that was easier.
Oh,
That
that
was
makes
a
perfect
long-
sense. That was.
All of that was a
excellent.
long way of saying it, but
I mean, I put bits and pieces of it together.
I think I would add that the 70-year-old pipe was 20 years old when we installed it. What my understanding is it was a hand-me-down pipe from Atterbury, not new pipe.
That's what we've heard, yes.
Yeah.
Surplus, well, the ductile iron that's in the ground is surplus full of water.
Yeah.
the long story short, in my mind, having grown up here and graduated in 1971, been here my whole life. Not been here my whole life, but is that the rates that we pay today and have historically paid are enough to operate the system with a little bit of a cushion, 5% on this $1.6 million, maybe 50 to 100,000 extra, just so we don't not go broke, but don't dip into the savings. And that keeps us afloat and we're healthy. But now, here we are in 2025 with a system that's 70 years old, where we have these issues that we described. And so what are we going to do going forward? Do we just want to tread water? Or do we want to make an improvement for the next 50 years?
You mean do a piecemeal, a little bit at a time, or just do the whole shebang?
If you wanted to do piecemeal, you could do that, but you still will need a rate increase, a piecemeal rate increase.
Well, in a way, this project actually is a piece. You remember from the
Yeah.
overall water master plan, this is a piece of
From,
a
Yeah.
larger
from the overall master plan,
master plan.
this 12 million is the overall plan is you could use $30 million, almost start a whole. Replace all the piping, replace the pipe going clear to Belmont, replace the pipe going, maybe not going up to Freeman Ridge, but at least going to. But in my own mind, having a separate understanding why we pumped water to the top of Kelly Hill makes sense, right? Get the water to the tanks on top of Kelly Hill and then feed town. But you can imagine the line that comes into town was based on usage, volume 70 years ago. And now that we've grown, it's not that we don't have water for fire flow, but you can imagine we've got a 3/4 inch garden hose when we need a fire hose.
Right.
And so the real question is, the fundamental question is, do we want to tread water going forward? Or should we look on what we've done for the last 50 years and say, that's probably, look where we are, look where we find ourselves, that's probably not a good way going forward. And our job is only to recommend. I pay a water bill, but my water bill is $100. So I got $100 for the say out of 1.6 million. I'm just a small person with it. And so that's the real question. And the other point I was trying to make was that if you wanted to say, well, why don't we have a 20% rate increase, 10% rate increase, and spend that money, and then and that 10% increase will spend $1 million a year for the next 20 years to do it, or 10 years to do it. The answer is we don't have the money unless you wanted to kick the can down the road, increase the rates, make no improvements whatsoever, right? If we could increase the rates to make, instead of having a 70% increase that generated $1 million, if we raise the rates 25% and put $250,000 in the bank, in 10 years, we'd have 2.5 million. In 20 years, we'd have 5. So if you want to kick the can down the road 20 years and fill up your savings account, save it up so I can get the down payment for my house, you could do that.
But if you did it pieces at a time, you have to have an engineer and, I mean, all that stuff all over again, right?
Yes, it's mostly that you're borrowing the money for 25 years. So if you borrow 1/5 of the money and then go 5 years, spend that 1/5, spend $2 million, and then 5 years later, say, okay, we're ready for the next 2 million. Okay, for this 5 years, we had to increase the rates. So in 5 years, we're going to increase them again. In 5 years, we're going to increase them again, because you're never going to get it paid off over 25 years. So at the end of doing the $12 million worth of improvements, your rate is still going to be 70% higher. And we've looked at trying to fix small things. And the answer is, there's really no easy way to fix 70 years worth of old pipe. You either fix it or you don't.
Patch many times.
Well, that was very helpful.
Well, every person that understands more makes a more understanding decision.
But that was one question. You said you had a bunch of questions. I gave a bunch of answers.
Pretty much just covered it all.
Oh, very good. Yeah, it was really good.
I kind of figured everybody's recording, everybody that anybody wants to listen, they can. It's like, if I thought there was another way. Now, The only thing we didn't talk about is, here's an example. My water bill is, I'll just play with numbers, $120. I use 2,500 gallons a month. My water bill's, gross water bill's $120. Ballpark, that's 50 for water and 70 for sewer. So just throw the sewer part away because we're not talking about sewer, we're talking about water. So my water bill's $50. I don't have any other income. $50 a month's a lot of money. So I'm not trying to say $50 has no value. I'm just saying for most people, if we just doubled the rate and went from $50, but hey, wait a minute, what about Casa del Sol? What about the high school? What about Hard Truth? What about Fall Farms? What about restaurants? What about hotels? What about the nursing home? Those people, what we found in looking at the rates is out of the 1,400 customers we have, there are 1,350 for fun paying $50 a month. But the 50 commercial big water users generate a third to a half of the gross income. So when I talk about the rate, my rate going from $50 a month to $100 a month, there are 1,350 people. So there's a lot of voices there. Don't want to do that. It's okay or not. 1,350 voices, but the 50 voices that are paying a third to half the cost, where they may be paying, they could be paying $15,000 to $20,000 annually to double their cost. Wow. Which is why we're doing the hybrid. How do you figure out who? But it won't be the people that are paying the largest dollars. Those are the people that it would be the biggest impact on. And like I say, I'm not trying to say that a retired person that's living on Social Security and limited income, $50 every month is not a lot. It is. It's real money. But somebody's paying $10,000 to $20,000 a month. The state park, I think, buys almost 100,000 worth of water from us. But they tell us how much they're going to pay because they're the state. And in all fairness to them, okay, in all fairness to them, on our wastewater treatment plant, that's an $18 million project, the state gave us half the money for free and the other half the money for 0%. So the state is not our enemy. They're our friends, right? They helped us with the wastewater plant. The problem is you can't get that same kind of help on the water side, I think. Be nice. That's why I'm saying you got to focus on the fact that one of the things that we focus on is on this $12 million to borrow at 5%. In 25 years, you doubled. Your interest payments are half of your expense. And so, boy, if you can figure out how to get a 4% loan or a 2.5% loan, and King's X interest rates will go down over the next year instead of being as high as they are. Who knows?
Or the interest rates could go higher.
The only thing that won't change is the length of term you have to buy. You have to borrow the money for 25 years. There's not any point in spending $5 million this year, $5 million in 2 years, $5 million in 2 years, because when you get done, the guys that are paying $10,000 a month for water are still paying $20,000, double the rate. It's a dilemma. There's no easy answer. It's going to be painful no matter what you do. And that's why we're just the utility service board that makes a recommendation, and David's the one that has to get the votes.
On him.
We serve at the town council.
Do you see how he just threw that responsibility?
All right, I don't even like saying the word David.
Anything else with the water upgrade? Did you have any other questions? We'd be happy to. let
No,
you
but if
answer.
you have an extra one of those packets, I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. We can share that, right?
You need to do relevant, you have-
I think these are.
I would love, I would say she's welcome to flip through, but to take something home, unless there's, says you can, it worries me that all of a sudden the focus is gonna be on a draft instead of the final product. And on something we just looked at,
Are these not publicly available?
That's what I'm checking, I don't know. If-
does that make sense?
Yeah,
If something gets published in the Brand County Democrat and 500 people hear about, oh my God, they're proposing a 70%. And hysteria happens over something that we're just.
Right.
One
Well,
of our first time.
You said that last meeting too.
Huh?
You said that, I published that last meeting too. Did you get,
I don't know.
anybody yell
I
at you?
don't know, I'm just sharing a concern.
Yeah.
Hate for it to get.
I mean, if I'm not allowed to see it, then.
I'm not saying you're not allowed to see it. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I'm concerned. It concerns me that
Reproduce.
If this.
that everybody gets
Yeah.
off target. And it takes a life of its own, that somebody's proposing something, or not proposing something. This is just a draft.
It is a public meeting.
Well, and you did already say it, so all of that's already going in there. I mean, he made it clear that it was a preliminary draft, nothing. carved.
Does it say preliminary draft on the cover?
No, I didn't put it on there. You can write it on there. Isn't it? You didn't notarize it.
Yeah.
It's all public information.
And a speed broadcast.
Yeah.
Preliminary draft.
There we go.
I've been doing this a long time, trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just,
No, it's good.
I'm just sharing a thought.
Who are you, by the way?
Yeah, I just moved back from Martin County. I lived in Martin County for 18 years and had my own newspaper in Martin County.
Okay.
My husband's from here, graduated from here. My father-in-law lives here, my sister lives here.
We say your last name, what your name was?
Hewitt,
Hewitt. Where do you live at?
Carmel Ridge.
Mom and Dad used to have a place where you go out to the Cottonwood Church and go up the washboarded hill that didn't washboard it, and when you hit Carmel Ridge, turn right. Their place was the first place on the left-hand side.
Like I'm almost Cottonwood. And Cottonwood's still washboard.
Used to drive my prime 251 wonder up Carmel Ridge at 11 PM. Wake everybody up.
All right, consider engineering contract. So, there's a couple of changes to it that I would like to propose, minor, like in one of the, I won't go into details, but one of the task orders covers this meeting, but this meeting's also covered in the master service agreement. I think we just clean it up and move this, take everything out of the master service agreement, make it the master service agreement, and this meeting is covered in task order B or whatever it is. It's almost trivial, but what I guess I would ask if we can do this is that I think we as a board approve moving forward with the contract with you guys pursuant to Wanda's review and finalization of the thing. So I don't think we have to wait for that contract to be finalized before we as a board say, yep, we want to move forward with this, but Wanda or you, Wanda, whatever, sort out. So I'll make a motion that
Do we
we,
want to do that today?
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the finalizing the contract. Whatever, basically. I'll make a motion that we finalize,
All three move forward with finalizing contract, three contracts.
there's one master contract with three task orders.
Oh,
Because we want to look through the task orders to see, but
no, you want
I just want to move I want to move all of the task orders in all of the. I think I move all of the tasks in the task orders and out of the master agreement. That's the thing I will change. So, but I'd like to make a motion that we work with Wanda and CDL to finalize the agreements moving forward.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else we need
Thank
to
you
talk
for
about?
working here.
Anything else?
No, I think I beat it to death.
Yeah, you do.
So anyone wants to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
I'll second.
Adjourn at
Button click.
10:58. Thank you all very much. And thank you for your questions.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All on the phone, he said.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
I know, I'm ready for some wine.
It's wine, is that your,
You get enough whining.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Sarah.